What's going on, everyone? It's Sheena, aka Sheenapreneur, your favorite veteran. Today I want to talk to you about how to realistically start your government contracting business in 2024. It's a new year, new you, and I'm going to get into it right after the intro. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Here on the Sheenapreneur channel, I share information about government contracting, veteran business content, and other business tips. So happy new year, everyone. It is still January 2024. And what I wanted to do was just go over a few ways that you can get started in your government contracting business for 2024 realistically, because, there's a lot of information out here and some of us are, at their analysis paralysis and we are information overload. And what I want to do is just kind of break it down to where it can be simple, simplistic, something that you can get started right now. So the first thing I would say is, I always preach about choosing your industry, right? Now, you may go into an industry where you are not familiar or you did it with your job, but you wanted to try to do something else. And you're like, oh, Sheena, what is the easiest industry to get into? Start with what you know. That is the very first thing. And everything that you know goes with that industry. Let's just say it's information technology, IT, right? And you know IT inside and out. And one of the aspects of IT inside and out, and you can just say, hey, I'm going to start with IT. I'm going to start with IT staffing. Go into the industry that you know. Or if you want to go into something totally different, make sure that you have some sort of support in that industry. For me, 20 years in the Army, I was in information technology and I went to facility management when I started my government contracting business. Where we at? 2024? 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. With that, I had support though, because I was doing real estate. So I had support that could help me do facility management, like renovations and floor repair and painting like that. So I had the support. So I was able to easily go into something that I didn't really know. So the first thing to do is to go with what you know, choose an industry. The second thing is to figure out what your business name is going to be. Okay. So I get this question a lot, believe it or not. Some people are already in business and they do maybe like residential, they do something else, or they had a business for a long time and they haven't used that name. And I get the question like, should I keep this name? Should I use a different name? Come up with a whole new name? Choose a name that you feel like would look good on paper to the government. And I know that's probably might be an unpopular opinion, but really confused minds don't buy. So it's really, really good to ensure that you have something that someone can say, hey, this company, ABC company did painting for me, instead of something a little more provocative or something that people don't understand, or they're confused by the name, or it has maybe some kind of other connotation to it. So choose a name that's corporate sounding. If you think about most corporate companies, most of them have like a short, sweet name or some kind of acronym or something like that, to where you feel like this sounds good no matter where it goes and you feel proud to say the name. So if you don't feel proud to say the name, chances are that's not the name that you should use. I actually started off with a different business name because I was in real estate. So it was very, very much aligned with real estate. I hated it when I came over to government contracting. I didn't like it. And so I actually did amend my name. And I will tell you, it is very, very challenging to amend your business name. So just try to go with something nice and simple and that makes sense. And then people can say, okay, that works. And especially those of us who are going into something like facility management or something where it's like multi-layered or broad, you just want to make sure that the name is not directly related to one thing, like Sheena's Painting Company. Okay, but we also do floor repair, but most of the time people are not going to think that you do floor repair if it's Sheena Painting Company. So the third thing would be starting with your branding in mind, because what people tend to do is you'll start with your startup business and then you change some stuff, you get a new logo, you do all these things. But if you start with your brand in mind, if you think about any other large company just out here in the free world, you can usually recognize their business color or their font based on just that one thing, whether it's the font or the color. And so just like that, people need to think about you when they think about whatever service that you provide. So branding is very, very important to establish at the beginning. Once they see that color, they're going to think of you. Number 4 is to register your business. So you got your name, you got your colors, you're thinking about how you want to present your business. You got to register with your Secretary of State. And sometimes you have to get a business license. So for all my veterans, if you get a business license for the city or the county in which you're registering the business, it's free for business licenses. Just FYI, you have to figure out what that particular county or city actually, how they do the business licenses for free if you're a veteran. But just for everyone else, you may not always need a business license, but if you do, just know that that's usually a part of the process, and it can be anywhere from $25 to several $100s, just depending on how that particular county or that particular city works. So you register your business with the Secretary of State, which also is different depending on which state you are, anywhere from $50 to $500 per year. And then there's also a annual registration amount for that year. So that is the fourth thing you do. The fifth thing you do is register in your city and state as a vendor. So it could be, the term can be vendor, supplier, could be something like that. So what you would typically do is go to your state website and just put in procurement. So state of Georgia procurement, state of Florida procurement, city of Miami procurement, city of Wichita procurement. And usually on the website, they'll have something that says doing business with, or become a vendor, become a supplier. And what that does is put you in the vendor pool for the things that that particular agency at the city, county, state level actually needs services for. So they may very well say, okay, I had one particular instance where I did not put it in a bid for this particular school system. And because I was registered as a vendor, they called me to give them a quote for painting lockers at a school. So I was registered as a vendor, put in my quote. I didn't end up getting that quote, but you know, you win some, you lose some. But I didn't have to do any bidding. It was just putting in a quote. So make sure you register with your city, state. Now that's the local level of government contracting. It's still government contracting. So that's one of the things that I teach about in my course is federal, local, and corporate contracting. You can be very, very good on corporate, very, very good with federal, very, very good with local. All three, like my company, Foresight Industries. But just know that that's a good place to start, because you don't have to register in SAM. You don't have to get your, UEI, get your cage. A lot of those things stop people from actually going after contracts. So if you register as a vendor with your city, state, county, school system, and just put whatever that particular location is and put procurement behind it, then you are able to at least get maybe a call. I've had some of my students say that they just registered as a vendor and they got calls back to back because apparently their service is really, really needed in that area. So that's a good way to start, and you're still doing government contracting, and you may not have to bid on anything. They'll come to you and ask you for a quote for whatever service that you actually provide. So number 6 is to get a business bank account. I don't understand, and let me not be like that. It's 2024. I'm trying to be a new me, but I don't understand how this is still a question or a confusion, but you need to have a business bank account. There's a lot of laws that surround you commingling your personal funds with your business funds. There might be some of that at the beginning, depending on if you have to fund a contract or whatever. But really, it's too easy to just get a business bank account. It takes very little unless you've already been in business and you've had maybe some issues. But even still, that's not always, from one bank to the next. You may be okay with getting just a plain checking account for now. Just a plain checking account at a business bank. With business banks, it's all personal, like how you feel about that particular bank. You might already be doing business with Chase. I don't have a Chase. I used to have a Chase account, but I don't have a Chase account. I've always heard great things about the business side. I have a Navy Federal business account. I haven't really used it to the best of my ability. I know, shame on me, but that's going to be different for 2024. So I've always heard great things about Navy Federal business. I also have Navy Federal personal and a credit card, and they're phenomenal on that side. But, it's all personal preference. But the only drawback with some of those banks that are like specialty credit unions and stuff is that it may not be easy for you. It may not be as accessible. It may not be as convenient. So for me, I do have a Wells Fargo account that I put pretty much all my deposits for my facility management company goes into. Because I travel so much and I need to have access to a bank sometimes immediately, and the ease of wiring. There's smaller banks where you have to physically go into the branch to do a wire. Sometimes I have to do a wire at a moment's notice, and it's all online. So for me, having a larger bank was easier based on what I'm trying to do. Now, do they give a damn about my little business? Absolutely not. And that's one of the drawbacks of having larger banks. If you're not building that relationship with them, sometimes it may not be beneficial when it comes to getting loans and that type of thing. And it's unfortunate, but for me, my biggest concern was convenience. And so Wells Fargo does do that. I also have Truist for my Sheenapreneur company. Truist is a large bank, but it's not as large as Wells Fargo. And they still kind of operate on the like credit union where you have to go into the branch for several things, or you got to pay an extra fee for this thing. I don't particularly like that. But it is a little larger than some other smaller banks. So getting a business bank account, in short, is extremely important. And you also need to have the business bank account, presumably, when you go and register in SAM. Now, of course, you can put any bank account in there. Actually, I think you might even be able to skip that step on SAM until you get a business bank account, because there's some people out here that don't have a bank account at all, and you use things like, let's say, Chime or something like that, which is cool, but you need a bank account, especially when you start getting these M's, you know what I'm saying? You start getting these M's, you need a bank account, and all that stuff makes a difference when it comes to lines of credit and access to capital and all those things. So just knowing that you have to make sure that you have a business bank account, just choose wisely, choose based on what is very, very important to you. Registering in SAM is pretty much, you can do this at any point in your steps because you can still be looking at government contracts without being registered in SAM. But I would say just go ahead and get registered in SAM and get it out the way. I probably get, I don't even know, dozens of DMs a day with people like, oh, I registered in SAM. I got my cage code. Now what? So I don't want registering in SAM to be a hindrance for you. So I would say register as you're doing the next steps that I say. So you're going to register in there. So you need to know your industry when you go. I've heard some people say that they registered in SAM without a NAICS code. I'm not sure how, because I mean, it's been a long time since I registered for the first time. But I'm pretty sure you have to have a NAICS code when you're registering in SAM. So that means you have to know your industry. And for those who don't know, a NAICS code, NAICS, is your industry code. Basically, the Census Bureau, who checks the census for human beings, they also check the census for businesses and how many businesses are in this industry, etc. And so your NAICS code, you may have several, but your primary NAICS code is what you primarily do. So for me, I do it's facility management, facility maintenance, facility support services. So facility support services, NAICS code is 561210. And yes, you need to know your NAICS code by heart once you get there. But within facility support services, there's so many other layers such as janitorial, floor repair, painting, all these other things. You can also add to your SAM registration as far as your NAICS code. So you can add those other sub-NAICS to whatever the overall one is. And if you do, I'll say don't do more than 2 services, but they need to still kind of be related. If you're in IT, information technology, IT, then, that's a very, very broad range of services. So, kind of keep them similar, because when the agency contracting officer or contract specialist goes and looks, they're going to say, how is this a small company, a brand new company that's providing all these services? They may be more apprehensive to give you the work. So just, register in SAM, get all the way through. One of the things about the cage code that I hear is that people like, I never got my cage code. And it's because you probably had a discrepancy in your SAM registration. And so that could be anything from an address discrepancy or whatever. And they're going to send you an email specifically asking, hey, what's going on with this? Why does your home address show this, but then you typed in this, whatever the case may be. And they usually give you a very short period of time to correct that. So if you miss that email, if you're a person that doesn't check your emails, you're going to be in trouble, because that's something that, you have to get done really, really quickly. And if you don't keep up on your registration, or you don't finish, it deletes after a certain period of time. So just make sure that registering in SAM is not going to be a hindrance for you to get started in government contracting. So the next thing is, number 8, is start reading solicitations that are related to your field. I swear, I feel like this is one of the most, it's got to be one of, if you didn't have to register for anything, say there was no such thing as a registration, you really, you got started in government contract, and say this was 1985. I don't know how they used to really do it back then. But one of the most important things you need to do is read a solicitation related to your industry. The reason why this is so important is because it gives you the verbiage and the understanding of what the government is actually looking for. So where do you find these solicitations, Sheena? Okay, you can literally Google them. Like, I was actually working on a bid last night for some litter pickup, and I was trying to get some pricing and just kind of seeing what was out there. and I Googled, litter pickup award, and there were a gazillion that popped up, and they have the pricing, they have the scope, the scope of work, and where it's located, exactly what they're asking for, how much, what companies won that contract, everything, every detail with that solicitation. And so when you start reading that, there's going to be certain things that you'll find out that maybe you don't have or you don't understand. And as you're reading it and you start seeing multiple solicitations that are asking for your E-Verify number, you're like, what the hell is an E-Verify number? I never heard that in my life. Now you Google how to get an E-Verify number. So that really, really helps you figure out, okay, let me get ahead of this before I start bidding on contracts. So even like bonding, there's a lot of people in government contracting that do contracts that never heard of bonding because their industry doesn't require bonding. Whereas my industry does require bonding, maybe about 50% of the time. It's not a lot because I don't do construction. I do, maintenance. So it's not as heavy, but sometimes we do need bonding. Well, we do construction sometimes, but we don't typically need bonding, but I know about it. I have a bonding guy, a bonding broker, and I can actually leave his information in the description below. But those things are super, super important because once you start bidding on a contract, let's just say you dive in today and you start bidding on a contract. You're like, this is the first solicitation I ever saw in my life, and it's asking for all these things that you don't have. That's when you start getting discouraged and you end up not going through with it because it's a deadline and all these other things. But reading the solicitation is really, really important for you to get kind of like a mental practice on what an agency might need. And that includes insurance, because what you don't want to happen, and this happened to me, and this happened to a few people that I know, where they won a contract, they went through all the things, bid on a contract, won the contract, and then the agency's like, hey, you didn't provide your such and such insurance. You have 72 hours to get it. Now, if anyone has ever gotten business insurance, you pretty much know that it's not a quick turnaround. It's not easy to get. And now you have to kind of negotiate with the agency to give you more time for your insurance. And now they're going to be scratching their head or having an attitude like, this is why we don't do business with small businesses. And I know that's like kind of, I guess, crass, for lack of a better word to say, but that's sometimes how they operate and how they feel. They just want the work done and they want you to do what you said you're going to do. And they want you to have your business straight. So the best thing for you to do as a brand new business, a startup, a small business owner, is to ensure that you have all the stuff for that particular industry that they're usually going to ask. Like at this point, we kind of know what they're going to ask for. And if there's something that's like a little off colored, we won't usually go after that opportunity. So the next thing is going to events. So going to events was always hard for me at the very beginning because I'm not antisocial. Let me not say that. I'm more of an introvert compared to being an extrovert, contrary to popular belief. So it was challenging for me to go out there in an event and like make friends and, kiss baby, shake hands, give out cards, introduce myself. But what the events do is give you so many things in one package. It gives usually events like if it's an industry day or if it's a conference or something like that, they give you education. There's classes about a varying amount of topics to include what's in your industry, depending on what type of event you go to. It might be based on your industry. So boom, you're learning more about your industry. It might be a straight business event and you can learn about business stuff. Like no one knows everything. So you might say, oh, wow, I never heard about this tool I could use in order to make, this more effective or this easier or this process is a lot better now that I learned in this class. So it's really, really important to, keep your mind fresh and constantly be a student because you'll get locked into these government contracts and not even know what's going out here in the free world. So that's really, really important. Also, you're meeting like-minded people. As you're going through this process of like growing into business, you're going to lose some people, unfortunately. There's going to be people that support you. There's going to be people that hate on you, hate you, feel like you don't have enough time for them. You're trying to be a millionaire, right? Period. Or let's say you're not trying to be a millionaire. Say you're trying to make enough 6 figures. You're just trying to get enough money to get blah, 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 blah. I would say if you have a goal for something short, probably don't want to get into government contracting because there's more work on the front end usually than the payout. Because even if you do all the work at the front end, register in SAM, register as a vendor, and then you execute a long contract or, a lengthy contract that's $1 million, you're probably going to work really hard during that time for that $1 million. Usually, not all the time. I mean, there's all these different examples of people having easy contracts and all that kind of stuff. And I've had some easy contracts. But what I'm saying is you're going to lose people in this process. So those events allow you to meet new people who think like you. And hopefully they're in your industry. Don't make them your enemies, make them your frenemies, or they might actually be your friend and be a support system for you as you're navigating through this if it's a new journey for you or a separate journey for you, then you're meeting people, hopefully, that can help uplift you. Like when you're ready to quit and you just reach out. I mean, most of my friends right now none of them are people I grew up with. They're all like, I met them at some kind of business event, business program or something like that. So this is my tribe. And so it's really, it's important to have that tribe because it's hard out here in the real business world. And you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars. You have employees, you got payroll, you got so many things that you have to focus on that sometimes, having those like-minded people to just run ideas by is really, really important. So that is, how events can be helpful, like the education, meeting new people, and then getting out of your comfort zone, because there's going to be plenty of times in your journey where you're going to be out of your comfort zone. I'm talking rough, and you're going to be forced to be out of your comfort zone. So events are really, really good in those cases. It gives you some practice to, your pitch or anything that's related to probably something different than you've ever done. So always make the most of your events. Don't just go to every event in the world, but just strategize how you can make this event, beneficial for you. So the next thing is practice putting in bids. So just like practice reading, practice putting in bids is important too, because if you put yourself on a deadline, if you are, putting everything together like physically instead of just in theory, it's just like I have a business degree, right? So in theory, all the stuff they say about business is cute or whatever, but most of it is not related to what you do as a real business owner. Like it's pointless. So reading the solicitation is not pointless in this case, but it's pointless if you don't actually start submitting. Like, don't just read because you got nighttime reading. Like, do that so you can get comfortable enough to start bidding. So once you start bidding and you're putting in solicitations or even like a lengthy quote, because they have RFQs, which is a request for quote. Sometimes those are kind of lengthy. Even sources sought is sometimes a little lengthy. So if you start practice putting those in, then you'll get over that initial fear of actually submitting bids. And that's where a lot of people fall, is that they're too afraid to bid on anything. And so they just never do. So you're getting yourself the steps of how to get through this process. To practice calling subs and calling primes. So a sub is a subcontractor that would be working under you with a contract, potentially. And a prime is someone who you would be working for in government contracting. So that's the easy way to explain it. And so those people can change up just depending on what you're going after. If you already have a certification or you're looking to get your certification for federal or local or whatever, they may need you to be a prime on a project. So you may be a prime, you may be a sub, depending on whatever project you're going after. So with that, get used to calling people and finding out like how to talk to them, because sometimes you might have an opportunity and you're like, okay, I don't know how to do painting, like for real, how to paint a commercial building or the outside of a building. I'm going to call a painting company and just ask them, are you familiar with this? Like, just whatever the solicitation calls for, you call them to get practice, because once you start executing this work, or maybe you might win and you don't have anybody in mind, and now you have to start calling people. You're like, oh my God, this is the first time I ever made a call. Then, you already have that practice, already kind of have some people in the pipe. I always feel like it's better to build a relationship with any industry you're going into. It's better to have the relationship first. And that may not always be the easiest, because if you're brand new, sometimes if you call a bigger company, it's intimidating to say, I don't have any opportunities yet, but I want to be your friend type of thing. But, if you're going into it providing value, it's all about providing value. Hey, I have my, I'm registered in SAM. I see that your company doesn't do any federal contracts. Are you looking to do federal contracts? Because I'm already registered in SAM. I'm a service disabled veteran-owned company. I'm a woman-owned company. I'm an 8A company. I'm a hub zone company. I would love to be able to do some projects with you, Because basically, if you have the certification and they don't, they can't get the job without you. So you're bringing a value to them. You're not just saying, hey, can you help me? Like that turns off any company that's been doing this for a while, or a larger company. That's the biggest turnoff ever. So just make sure you're always leading with value and you're calling them and being strategic with what you're asking. You're not just calling blindly like, hey, how you do government contracting? Like, oh Lord, please y'all stop that. That's just not gonna work.
Not gonna, you know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna, nah, it ain't gonna work.
The next thing is meet other business people. This goes back to the events as well. So you can meet business people at events. You can join programs where you're meeting business people wherever, like meetups. Here in Atlanta, they have like a lot of chamber of commerces. They have a lot of elite clubs where you can meet other business people. But that's, again, very, very important to have people who think like you, because if you're a business owner or you're a wannabe business owner, you're an anomaly. That's why there's so many people that work 9 to 5, and then you have like a few outliers that are business owners. You know, there's not a lot of us out here. So make sure that you have someone you can lean on and you can share ideas with, and, you know, that make you feel like, okay, what I'm doing is actually making sense. Or if it doesn't make sense, they have enough fortitude and enough care for me to make sure that I'm on the right path going into my business. Another thing, which is like a personal thing, but eliminate distractions. So many people tell me I don't have time. I got so much going on. A lot of times you saying that, but you still scrolling on Instagram. I mean, let's just be real. I scroll on Instagram. I give myself a time limit. And I'm actually going to change a lot of that for this year. A lot of the stuff that I was doing was, you know, market relating, where I was marketing my services, marketing my company, marketing this. So then I get kind of caught up in marketing, and then I'm scrolling, and then I'm marketing, and I'm scrolling. Or on Facebook. I'm not even on Facebook like that. But, you know, Facebook is like people's Achilles heel. So you have time, make time, even if that means that you have to schedule a time specifically to work on your business, whether even if you got a 9 to 5, if you got 5 kids, all that, I don't care. Carve out 1 hour a day. Carve out 30 minutes a day. Even if that means you get up 30 minutes earlier before you go to work, or sometimes it's hard to do it when you get home from work if you got kids and sports and all this kind of stuff. So carve out 30 minutes after everyone goes to sleep. I mean, I know this stuff seems elementary and it's like, Sheena, I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. That's cool. Do it during lunch. I used to do a lot of my work during lunch when I was working. And in the morning, I would get up extra early to knock out stuff so it wouldn't interfere with the family time after work. But eliminate the distractions, because you have, like, once you start making this money, you're going to be forced into high performance. I mean, the government usually is going to make you be a big business even before you're ready. So eliminate the distractions and stay focused on what your ultimate goal is. I put out a post on my Instagram a few days ago or a week ago, is what income are you claiming per month for 2024? And there were a lot of people that were like 100,000 per month, you know, 50,000 per month, $1 million per month, whatever. And I'm like, well, do you have that type of grind? You know what I mean? Like, do you have that type of fortitude? If you someone who like to sleep a lot, if you're someone who's always scrolling, always playing, always whatever, then it might be a little harder for you to get to that goal if you're not super focused. So just a little something, a little personal something that I wanted to add to this. Another thing is bid until you win. And it's like, but Sheena, it sounds so easy, but it really is, because once you start practicing putting in these bids, it doesn't matter if you lost the first 10. If you watch my video that I did with Brent Archie of Archie Supply, you know, he said he didn't win the first 15. And it was so funny because that conversation, he was like, oh yeah, that was nothing, you know. And I'm like, Archie, Brent, I keep calling him Archie, but a lot of people don't get past that first one because he's made so many millions of dollars. He's looking at that like, 15 and don't win, that's nothing. And he said he's definitely lost more opportunities than he's won. And he's been in business, I think, about 6 or 7 years or something like that. So not that long. And so he's made millions, right? And so, you know, you really, really have to just keep bidding. My story is I won my first 3 contracts. And so I was like, a breeze, right? This is like the easiest thing ever. I'm gonna be in government contracting for life. 2020 hit and we didn't win anything for 9 months. And we were doing COVID cleanings and still were losing COVID contracts. I'm like, how Like we the go-to, but it wasn't working. So we didn't win anything for 9 months. So from April of 2020 through January of 2021, we won nothing, zero, not even a partial, nothing. And then the first week of January, we won 6. So obviously that's from 2020, it carried over. So it's like keeping that hope alive. You got to keep going, keep trying. You never know what might stick. And this is all within my industry. So I wasn't just throwing anything against the wall, but we just kept bidding and bidding and bidding literally until we won. And so they end up, one of them, let me see, 2 of them I still have to this day. And that was, 2021. So I'm very, very grateful. That's what's keeping the doors open. You know what I mean? Keeping the money come flowing in. Another thing is show off your wins. So there's several parts to showing off your wins. You actually become like respectable in the industry and not braggadocious, because I'm not a braggadocious person. And some people tell me like, you got to show your house, you got to show your cars, you got to show your, how you actually are from day to day. And that's really hard for me. You got to show all your awards. Like I got some of them here, but I still got a bunch that I don't even display or talk about. But you got to show your wins because one, it shows that you're an industry leader, right? Another thing is it gives you opportunities. Believe it or not, people are watching, like they are watching people, whether they're somebody who wants to be like you. So you're inspirational. Those who are hating on you, which still inspirational, I don't care. And those who want to do business with you, they're going to see, wow, she won some awards. She was on, the evening news for her pressure washing job for the World Series. Like, she's doing stuff. Like she's really has a legit business. So people see that and they're like, wow, okay, this person is not a fly by night. They have a presence online. They're sharing their wins and they're out here really doing this. Like really out here working, really out here with a true business. And so people want to see that before they even come to you. Usually they're going to do their research on you and you got to have your wins somewhere. So we do have a government contracting community, GovCon Moneymakers, and it's absolutely free to join. So I'll leave, the link is always in the description for every video. But, we share our wins in there as well, where people are like, hey, I won my first contract. I won this contract. We ask questions, we share information, and it's a really, really great community to if you don't have those business friends yet, so many people have made connections in that group. Again, it's GovCon Moneymakers and the link is in the description. So, make sure that you are sharing this stuff so people know that you're out here working. It makes a difference. I'm telling you. I know they say, I don't know what it is about 2024, but people are like, oh, just be silent and I'm just going to pop out like this. That's cool if that's what you want to do. I mean, I'm not going to knock how anybody protects their peace. But I would say based on my experience of sharing my wins, I've gotten way more opportunities by sharing than not sharing. So I used to not share anything and I was just, fully focused on bidding, not reaching out to subcontractors, not reaching out to anybody else. And I would essentially say that it might have been a little harder for me because I was just doing that. But being, out here showing my business stuff, it really made people come to me. So, just whatever floats your boat or whatever, like you grown, you do whatever you want to do. But I would just say share your wins at least so people know, what you do, how you're being recognized, that type of thing. It just kind of makes a difference to me, I think. Another thing is hire somebody once you win a contract. You may need to hire somebody before you win a contract. That's, it really depends on how you feel about what's going on in your life. Because you might have, like one of my students, as soon as he registered as a vendor, he started getting calls back to back to back to back. So he couldn't even keep up with some of the quotes that were coming his way. And so he had to hire like a procurement person on his team to help him navigate that. Cool. Hasn't won a contract yet, but, he needed someone to help him with that. So, with that being said, it's, I would say hire someone once the money starts coming in, because the last thing you want to do is you start getting discouraged and distracted, and hopefully you don't do that. But if you don't have the money coming in, then now you're taking money from somewhere else. And that might be a problem. That might be a problem for you. You may not be able to sustain with that for too long. And now you can't no longer pay that person. And now you're maybe in a worse situation than you were. So I always say just try to, unless it's for a contract, obviously, But if you're talking about like an executive staff member, like an admin, project manager, all those kind of things, wait until you win the contract so you can know how much you're going to pay them or what you can afford. It kind of goes into your numbers. Also, invest in your education. Oh my goodness. This goes kind of back to some of the event stuff. At events, you can get some, essentially, it's not free education, but it's education within what you already paid if it's a paid event or it's a free event. But if you invest in your education based on your industry, based on government contracting, based on business, it yields dividends. I mean, even for other opportunities, I've gotten some of my biggest opportunities from being in a program where somebody knew somebody and they're like, hey, you need to talk to Sheena, and they could just kind of circle back around. So investing in your education is how you stay fresh. You can't just say, I'm going to do this and that's it, and you never ever grow as a business owner. I was in the SBA Thrive program here in Atlanta. And there was a gentleman who his dad was a business owner. He worked for his dad and then he got his own business, and he's been in his business for like 30 years. And this was like the first business course he's ever taken. So he never worked as a regular employee anywhere else. He only worked for his dad and only worked for his own business, which is very interesting. So it kind of gives you like a perspective of like, this person, I've been doing this forever. I don't necessarily need to or want to invest in my education. And he took this SBA Thrive program, which is only 6 months, changed his whole life, changed his whole business. And it's like, and that's a free program. So making sure that you are ready and willing to take some tips, take some advice, and go through different scenarios in order to be better for yourself and for your business, for your employees, for your mental health is super, super important, and is highly unrated. You can do YouTube University. You can learn a lot there, but also like industry standard stuff where it's important to know how your numbers work. Most of us hate the numbers. Lord knows we hate the numbers. But you need to know them. You have no business without income, without revenue. You have a hobby if you're not making money. Point blank, period. I don't care which way you remix it. Even nonprofits make money. So anything else is just a hobby, and don't call it a business. So you need to make sure that you understand how your numbers work. Even if it's at the bare minimum, like, okay, I made 100,000. I have 50,000 to spend. And that's it. That may be the length that you're mentally capable of accepting. So I totally get it, but you definitely have to be really, really in the weeds of your business, at least at the beginning. And then you can hire people to do those other things that you may not know how to do, or you don't want to do, or whatever the case may be. Treat your employees fair. Also underrated, it's really important. These people that you hire are running your business. They're the reason why you're in business usually. There are some cases where people are like, I'll take over and I'll just do your whole job, but you will never scale that way. You'll never scale really, truthfully, by being a solopreneur. Look, if you're a solopreneur and you're making 7, 8, 9 figures, hit the comments, for real. Hit the comments, because I want to know what that is. Unless you changed over and now you're a solopreneur. I can see that. I've seen that before. But if you're someone who's like solo dolo, never had an admin, never had this, I do everything myself, and you make 7, 8, 9 figures, then check me and, put in the comments, government contracting. I'm not talking about selling on Amazon or nothing like that, but in government contracting. And by the way, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, because I'm putting in this work for 2024 for y'all. Like, this is something that I didn't really want to do, because I'm like, I go over all this in my course, GovConNOW, and I was like, should I really do that? Well, I go way into detail with GovConNOW, but with this, I just feel like you need a little, a push. At least you can get a clear understanding of why you're doing some of the things you're doing. I was one of those kids. I'm an inquisitive child. Okay, I get what you're saying, but why? If I get why, I'll do it. No problem. I need to know why this is important, or what the perspective is on certain things, instead of just telling me, go do this. And you're like, okay, I registered in SAM, now what? And that's what's happening to a lot of people. So I'm just saying, I think it's important to know. So treating your employees fair is, something that the gift that keeps on giving. You may have to pay more for someone, but just know that person is going to work damn hard. When you treat them well, you're fair, you give them raises, bonuses, all those types of things. They recognize that. They take that to another business or another job, and they just say, I don't ever want to have a boss like this, or, I'm going to be a better boss than what I had. You don't want that, and it's, again, they're running your business. They are the driving force of what, revenue you have coming in. So it's important to make sure that they are taken care of, well taken care of within your limits, of course. You can't pay them more than you're getting paid. Able to run your business effectively, essentially. So the next thing is building your bail team. And I'm going to keep this really short because this is something that you don't really need right away. But a bail team is your banker, your accountant, your insurance broker, and your lawyer, attorney. So a legal. So bail is something that you're going to need eventually. You're going to need multiple attorneys. You're going to need, for me, I have a government contracting attorney. I have a trademark attorney for Sheenapreneur. I have a employment attorney, employment law firm. So it's important to have different types of attorneys. I'm really focusing on that because a lot of people were like, oh, my family member is an attorney, or I know someone that's an attorney, but they're like a real estate attorney. They don't know anything about government contracting. I don't give a damn. I don't care how much you trust this person. If they do not have the understanding about government contracting, do not hire them. Period. Don't do it. Don't do it. My attorney, he's very familiar with government contracting. And so what makes it better, because he has so many different examples of where he had a client who went through XYZ. So he can give me the examples of, oh yeah, I had a client that dealt with that, and this is what they did, or this is what ended up happening because they didn't do what I told them to do, or whatever. So if you don't have that institutional knowledge, how are you able to give me advice? You can read whatever you want to read, but we all know, and even with government contracting, it's supposed to be black and white, but it's black and white and gray. So they have to be able to have that institutional knowledge to know that certain things are not going to always be cut and dry. And it might be that one little nuance that's the difference between you making money, being profitable, or having no money on your contract. So point blank period, I won't beat that dead horse. You need to have an attorney that is familiar with government contracting. Banker, tricky, because if you have a large bank, you may not get a banker that you want to. But if you have a smaller bank, you may be able to have a banker a little bit easier. So just try to get a banker in the bank that you're going to be using, and make them your friend so they know what your goals are, and they can help with access to capital. So I'm going to leave that one alone. Accountant, if you didn't watch my accountant video, she is also super familiar with government contracting. She does government contracting and maybe one other thing that she specializes in. Same thing. I had about 4 or 5 accountants in 2020, between 2021 and 2022, 2020 to 2022. And I'm sorry, they all sucked. And they were recommended to me from other people who make millions of dollars. And then it's funny because 2 of those, my friend ended up finding out that attorney wasn't as good as they thought. They just weren't paying attention. Not attorney, that accountant wasn't as good as they thought. And so they're like, oh my goodness, I've been blind for all this time with this accountant and they suck. And wow, I see why you didn't stay with them. I see the writing on the wall. I can kind of tell when they're not, if they're not familiar with government contracting, they might get a little pass, but the communication and all those kind of things are super important because, you're dealing with deadlines and all the other kind of stuff. So getting an accountant. So insurance, I have an insurance broker. He is the best of the best of the best of the best. Again, I ran through several, I actually came to him for bonding. He also does bonding. He'll make a way out of no way. Excellent person. Also leave the description, his information in the description box so you can have that info. So bail team, very important. I'll leave that where it is, but just know that you need to have a banker, accountant, insurance broker, and legal. Boom. Create a business savings. I know I said business bank account earlier for that time period, but if you can create a business savings account, just put a little bit of money in there just to have it grow, and mature so you can get used to having money in there, because really you can call it a petty cash or emergency fund, but it needs to be separated from your checking account, because it's Usually, if you carry cash, if you're a cash carrying person, once that money comes out of the bank, it's already spent. If there's cash, it doesn't even really exist to me because it's already out of the bank. It's already going to be spent on something. So if you have your savings account, you can start with $5 a month, for those who are not really good at banking and stuff like that and saving. Start with a small amount, so you can get used to saving for your business. Don't just as soon as you see the money drop in your account and you blowing money fast on I finally get to buy that Gucci bag that I wanted or whatever. No, you need to I wouldn't even say necessarily pay yourself first. Yes, you need to pay yourself at some point. That may not be at the beginning, but definitely put money into a savings or a petty cash. You definitely need to pay yourself at some point, but just for real, petty cash or a savings account for your business so you can get used to having something. It's like a 911 emergency and you need to pull from that, you'll have it. The next thing is, my favorite, make millions of dollars and then sell. So it's not a common practice for people to talk about selling your business, but that's all I ever think about is how can I build this business to sell? At first, I was going to do a franchise or a licensing model, but I think I changed my mind on that. So the purpose of what I do is to sell my company. So when I went through Goldman Sachs, that program, they teach you about what's your exit strategy. You're going to die in your business. You're going to sell your business. You're going to pass your business down. Everybody's like, oh, just pass your business down. But really think about that. Think about whoever you're passing it down to, your kids, grandkids, whatever. Do you trust them with your whole business that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into? Maybe. There's people that pass down there, they make their children go into the business, like they send them to business school, send them to construction school, whatever, and so they can take over. And some of the kids really want to do that. That's fantastic if that's the case. That's a no-brainer. But then you have other ones where you don't want them, they want to do something else with their life and you don't want them to be tied to your, pest control company. And that's no disrespect. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Or like your IT staffing company. You don't want them to have to deal with that. They wanted to be a veterinarian their whole life. So, why force them to do that? Whatever your flavor is, build your business to sell, even if you're not going to sell it. Because you want to have a nice, pretty package at the beginning. Start from the beginning with making sure that you have everything lined up, organized, easily accessible, because that also helps you with access to capital and all those things. Don't just throw your shit together like... Treat it like a real business. This is not a side hustle. This is you can get rich quick, but you can get broke quick as well. Because once the contract ends, that's when the money ends. It's not typically a residual. So you have to make sure that you are, structuring it to where it's for the long haul. Even if the long haul is 5 years. I know a few companies that sold their business for several million in less than 10 years. Now that's you out there hustling. You have a tremendous focus when you're doing that, but I've seen it before. So you build your business to sell. You want to pick your own dollar amount. You can sell your business for any amount. There was a website, and I can't remember the website at the top of my head, but there was a website where you can buy and sell businesses. And I've seen landscaping companies for $750,000. And the person selling it because they owed and they ready to move on, and $750,000 is cool for them. And they ready to retire and chill. So, those types of things are, what you should think about. Always think with the end in mind, whatever that end is. So that's it. I wanted to share, how to realistically get into your business in 2024, your government contracting business. I know that was a lot. This is a longer video than I anticipated, but I hope it gives you some insight of how to start, how to grow, how to scale. So I had something in here kind of for everyone and what that realistically would look like for 2024. A lot can happen in a year. You can go from just hearing about government contracting today to multiple millions of dollars by December 2024. And we claiming that, right? We claiming that. So don't forget that my course teaches you about federal, local, and corporate contracting, also how to start up your business. I share, how to choose a corporate name, how to pick your bail team, like I explained here, how to, so many aspects with starting a new business. And I also have something for my veterans as well. A lot of different business programs that are available, a lot of different freebies for veterans as far as business that I have researched and I have done and I have explored to give to you all. And again, don't forget the GovCon Moneymakers group, which is 100% free for you to join our group. All we need is your email. And until next time, it is your favorite veteran.